Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we're going to be starting another new series here on the channel. That being Neon Genesis Evangelion, The Spider's Thesis. What if Shinji was Spider-Man? As always, if you are new to the channel or if you're a regular and like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that's to come out now and in the future. Now, as you all know, I am a huge Eva fan, so whenever I get an opportunity to do an Eva story here on this channel, you already know I'm going to be coming at it full throttle. Now, the reason for this crossover isn't as complicated as you might think. In the world of Marvel Comics, specifically when it comes to the variant of Spider-Man known as Penny Parker, the crossover between the Japanese aesthetic of Penny Parker's universe along with the likes of the Eva series can't be understated, with inspirations from the original Evangelion coming from the Japanese Spider-Man series. So you could say this is my love letter to both franchises that I am personally attached to. But anyway, I can't wait to get into this video with you guys and for everything that's to come. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. And now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Like an angel with cruel and merciless intent, go forth, young boy, and you'll become a legend. In time, this blue of the sky will reach out and knock on the door to your heart. You're looking at me, making all that you see, content and we're merely smiling. Once more, the touch you long for consumes you with yearning to find that embrace. You're unknowing though, and what fate will sow, temptation implores you to know. Someday you'll notice, I pray that you'll realize his wings on your back are a dream. At last you'll have all you need to escape to the world where you finally be free. This was all a cruel angel's thesis from the start, brought to life out the window, now it's taking flight. Scorching pathos if you betray your memory. Follow his deviant divine philosophy, shining more than the stars that made the galaxy. Go forth, young boy, and you'll become a legend. This was all a cruel angel's thesis from the start, brought to life out the window, now it's taking flight. Scorching pathos if you betray your memory. Follow his deviant divine philosophy, shining more than the stars that made the galaxy. Go forth, young boy, and you'll become a legend.
The sun shined high over the city as a young man carrying a duffel bag, looking at a postcard and trying to find the right address, made his way through the empty city streets. The young boy had no idea where he was going. In fact, in all of his time on this earth, he had never even been to this city before, the city known as Tokyo 3. The young man's name was Shinji Ikari. Why he had been called here, he vaguely knew. It had something to do with the work of his father, the famed scientist known as Gendo Ikari. Of course, the relationship between father and son was rather strained ever since the death of his mother all those years ago, They hardly ever saw or spoke to one another, and in fact, that's kind of how they preferred things. Everything seemed to be a barren wasteland, even though the city was perfectly pristine and built, although it wouldn't stay that way for long. As off in the distance, the members of the Japanese Strategic Self-Defense Force were battling against a creature of unknown power and proportion. This being was known as an angel. Well, to be more specific, they were alien creatures from who knows where, but the term angel is what stuck with them. Beings of divine power that almost wreaked nothing but destruction of humanity every time that they arrived. This was the third angel, the angel of water, Sachiel. Although it did have another name, at least back when you could still even call it an it. It went by the name of a man by Morris Bondo. However, the code name that he had been given by those at NERV was Hydro Man, given his connection to the Angel of Water. Although now he had entered into a monstrous state, a being that could not be controlled or contained, it could only be neutralized. Shinji stood in the phone booth trying to make his call, watching as the fighter jets and the planes flew on ahead, the shockwaves of the battle affecting him even from this great of a distance, as a blue sports car came flying in out of nowhere. The driver being an older woman with purple hair, looking as vibrant and as energetic as ever. "Hey there, kid! You the new guy, Shinji Ikari?" Yes, that's me. You're Misato Katsuragi, right?" "Uh-huh. Get in, we're waiting for you." The two would begin hightailing it to NERV headquarters immediately, Misato cursing under her breath at the foolishness of the army trying to fight against the angel. If they didn't have technology to pierce through an AT field, it was all pointless. Fukasaki, one of the vice generals of NERV, standing beside his captain, Gendo Ikari. Yes, but in the end, they'll never learn. It seems as though they're going to be turning the operation over to us. Well, what are we going to do, sir? Pilot of Unit 0 has already been compromised. And even though we have the pilot for Unit 4 itself is not here. All she has is the standard unit. Tell her to act as support until the next one arrives. The next one? Yes. Today we are going to launch Eva Unit 1. But sir, we don't have a pilot for that. The pilot is on his way. There's no need to worry. The vice captain couldn't believe it. He was going to use his own son? Shinji would arrive to NERV headquarters, a base that was built on top and near an active volcano, running on the thermal energies, as well as having a storage facility underground. Shinji was impressed by the massive size of the facility itself. Even more so, wondering just what he had gotten himself wrapped up into. Misato would be prattling on about the ins and outs of NERV, about the finestry in mankind's machinery in the fight against the angels. Of course, for Shinji, he had no idea what this would fully entail for him, as they made their way through the base, eventually meeting with Dr. Ritsuko Akagi, who was the head leader in the science facility, and would be greeted to the third child. The group would make their way to the main hatch, where Shinji would come face to face with what he would be piloting. A large robot, purple in design with green trim, with the markings known of Eva Unit 1. "What the? A giant robot?" Shinji would say. "Yeah, I didn't think that we'd be..." "You already know, Misato," Ritsuko would say. "It's why he was brought here. But so soon? Is this what my father's been up to?" Correct. Shinji looked up to see the silhouette of his father bearing down at him. Through the lighting itself, he couldn't make a clear view of his face, but it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't make eye contact, and Gendo was aware of this. Will you pilot, Shinji? I'll ask again. Will you pilot? We haven't seen each other in so long, and this is what you want me to do? Am I just some tool? You are. And you don't care at all. I don't. How could you say that? I don't have time for this. Is she prepped? Sir, Ritsuko would say as a medical unit came in with an injured and battered girl. She had blue hair and shimmering red eyes. She was in the tatters of cloth that was red and blue. It looked like there were webbing on her. Sir, she's not ready to go. Even while the girl was being bandaged, if she's conscious, she can fight. The girl would fall to the side as Shinji raced over towards her. Another monitor would reveal civilians that were screaming and running for their lives. Shinji seeing all of the destruction and the mayhem. Is that? It's a live feed of the downtown district. If we don't hurry now, lives are going to be lost. The girl struggled to move. I can... No, you can't. If you go out there, you'll die. It's of no concern to you. She's a pilot. She knows what comes with the... Don't you have a heart? Just how cruel can you be? I can't let you do this. Fine. I'll pilot the Ava. Gendo smirked. It seemed like all his son needed was some cordial initiative. Are you? Look, I really don't know what I'm getting myself into here. But I can't just let someone go out and die like that. So fine, I'll do it. Is that what you want? I'll pilot the Ava. If this is your decision, and I hope you're prepared. Give it to him. Shinji would be given a wrist gauntlet of sorts. Something akin to a watch, although it was a little bulky. Shinji, Ritsuko would say, once you place this on your wrist, once you accept what comes with it, there is no going back. What you once were, you'll never be again. You can kiss a normal life goodbye. Shinji looked up to his father one more time. I haven't had a normal life in forever. No point asking for what'll never come true. Shinji would slap on the device to his wrist. It would lock into his arm. A tiny prick could be felt. Shinji would collapse to the ground for a moment, feeling an immense pain washing all over his body. It felt like he had been bitten, as if something was injected inside of him. It's a feeling of warmth, as if there was a fire being encased inside of your own bones. Feeling your skin crawl, every sensation heightened to the max. You could hear a pin drop from across the hall. You could hear the water dripping off in the distance. You could hear the slow shifts of the wind through the vents of the systems. You could feel the electrodes in the air. The sensations, everything around you, heightened beyond all human comprehension and capability. What happened? Under normal circumstances, Ritsuko would say, you would be given the time to decompress. But unfortunately, we don't have that time. You'll need to hit that button there. Okay. Shinji would do so. He could feel his clothing beginning to shift and change. He could feel something akin to a mask covering his face. As he was able to look into the reflections of the waters, he saw that he was in a costume of sorts. It was red and blue with the insignia of a spider on it. The wrist gauntlets still being on either side of him, and now with a second one. Now you are the pilot of Eva Unit 1. Begin synchronization. Shinji would be escorted inside of the pod. Still encased inside of his new suit, his lungs would be filled with the liquid of LCL that quickly became the breathing atmosphere. As the sync ratio would link with that of Eva Unit 1, the launch sequence would begin as the Eva was sent into combat, coming face to face against the angel, Sachiel of water. As they stood within the city limits, Shinji would walk forward. It feels like I'm like you're one with the Eva, Misato would say to him over the communication waves. All you have to do is take a step. Okay. So what do I have to do against this thing? You have to destroy its core, Ritsuko would say. We'll provide you tactical support. Where's the other pilot? Right now, she's on the ground escorting out the civilians, getting them to safety. All right. Out the corner of Shinji's eye, he could see a blur of red and gray. It looked like a tinier version of the Evangelion of sorts, like human-sized if you were wearing armor, if you will. It would be a bit taller than a human, but all things considered, it went moving around, swinging across building to building, using what appeared to be a tiny miniature gun shooting at the Eva from a distance. Hey there, partner! I didn't think they'd have someone new arrive. So, you gonna be replacing Ray? Huh? Who are you? Name's Penny, but we can skip the introductions for later. Right now, you have to focus on taking that thing down. Right? Oh! Eva Unit 1 would be thrown to the ground as the angel went charging towards it, Shinji kicking it off as the two of them would now stand back up once again, ready to lock up. The two would begin to tussle, the angel using water itself to increase its overall size and its muscle. We have to keep that thing away from the ocean, Penny would say. From what I've been able to see, the more closer it gets to water, the stronger it gets. If that thing gets to the ocean, it's going to be too powerful for you to beat, especially since you're a rookie. I'll try to keep the civilians out of the way and cover your weak sides. Right now, you have to focus on taking out that core. I wouldn't suggest using weapons like long range. You'll have to use one of the proto knives that are attached to the hip joints. Understood? Shinji was trying to make sense of all these commands all at once, his senses being heightened as he was able to avoid a punch at the last moment from the angel. What the? Hi, Spire Sense. You'll be able to sense incoming danger before it happens, but it's something you're going to have to get used to. Just try to use it and play on defense. Keep that thing away from the water. Right, okay? Shinji and Eva Unit 1 would continue their battle against the angel. The angel using its AT field to keep Shinji from getting in. The angel's already acted its AT field, Ritsuko would say. Unless Shinji can find a way to activate his own to break through it, I don't know what he's going to be able to do. I don't think he can tear through it with just raw power. The force field that was now protecting the angel kept Shinji from getting close to it as it began its descent towards the ocean side. In the meantime, Penny Parker, who was now inside of her own suit of armor, that being known as SP-DR, or known as Mech Spider for short, would be going about saving the civilians. One falling side of rubble was about to crash onto a smaller girl, although thankfully the girl was saved at the last moment, avoiding what could have been fatality or even death. With most of the civilians now cleared, Shinji tried desperately to get through to the AT field as the angel went going to the ocean. I've got to break through this thing. Come on, come on. Shinji, calm down. You'll have to try to break through the AT field with your own. What? It's a field that's forced around the angel itself. The only way to counter it is with an AT field of your own. I can make one of those? Yes, although we don't have time to go through the process. You'll have to try to slow that thing down as best you can. They were less than 200 feet away from the waters. If that angel got closer to it, it was going to be the end of everything. All that hard work, everything they had fought for, it would all be in vain in that moment. Shinji's would use the arms of the Eva, pounding at the AT field, attempting to rip through it and to rip it apart. He struggled in vain, desperately clawing, fiending to destroy it. Come on! Come on! In that moment, flashbacks would come to Shinji's mind. The flashbacks of a young boy crying as he was left at the train station by his father, remembering the isolation, the loneliness, the feelings of uselessness, of helplessness, all washing over him. No! Come on! I won't be a burden! I won't fail! Come on! Through pure determination, Shinji, using the Eva, had managed to rip through the AT field, ripping it open and getting to the angel. As the angel turned around, Shinji would lunge at it as it collapsed to the ground, Shinji pulling out the proto knife that was used by the Evas. The angel attempted to fend them off, as Shinji would attempt to drive the blade into the core of the angel. Just then, he could hear a distinct voice. Kill me. Kill me. What? Kill you? Shinji, who are you talking to? I don't know. I just hear some voice. Kill me. Kill me. What? Kill me. Kill me. Kill me. Was the angel asking him to kill it? But if so, why was it resisting? No, this didn't feel like the voice of the angel. It was someone else. Shinji wasn't sure of what to do. But with one desperate plunge, the blade was inserted into the core of the angel. A large explosion occurring in the process as Shinji was sent flying back. The last thing he remembered was hearing screams over the intercoms as Eva Unit 1 went smashing into a building, Shinji's head being rocked back hard. As he looked up to the monitor, he saw a flashing light. And in that very moment, everything would fade to black. An unfamiliar ceiling was all that Shinji could think as he awoke inside of the hospital, with no recollection of how he had gotten there or as to why. All he could remember faintly was a dream where a voice spoke to him. It called itself Garia, the last of the spider, and that Shinji had been chosen. Although chosen for what, he had no idea. As he walked out of his hospital room, he saw the doctors as they were pushing a young girl into another room. It was the girl from before, the blue-haired girl. Her face looked expressionless and blank as she looked to Shinji as they walked past. Another doctor arriving as he patted Shinji on the shoulder. I gotta say, you're truly something else, kid. Who are you? My name's Okada Octavius. And I must say, you did a fine job defeating that creature. Oh, but I still... Was anyone hurt? Thankfully, no. There were no casualties. It looks like wherever you got your training from, you sure did well. I'm grateful to you. My daughter's school isn't too far from where the battle happened. There's no telling what could have happened to her. The doctor would happily show a picture of his daughter. Her name's Liv. She can be a bit of a handful, but still, she is my pride and joy. I see. I'm glad I could help. You alright? I can go run some tests, and you need to go sit down back in bed. You probably haven't fully recovered from that concussion you suffered from. Although I must say, your body's a lot more resilient. That's when Shinji took note of his body. It was a lot more toned, muscular. He felt like he had a lot more strength than before. So, gotta say, you play sports or something, kid? No, not particularly. Well, you definitely keep yourself in good shape. With that, Shinji would be discharged from the hospital not too long after. As he arrived back in Nerve, he sat in a waiting area by himself, looking out of the large window that gazed over the city. You are truly something else out there, Shinji. Huh? Who said that? Hi there. A young girl with short-cut black hair, almost to the same length as that girl with blue hair, would emerge. How are ya? Now that there's no life or death situation, I can finally introduce myself. My name's Penny. Penny Parker. Nice to meet you. Shinji Ikari, right? Yeah, you look just like your old man. I do? Well, kinda. With the bags, the sort of soullessness in your eyes, kinda. Although I'd say he's a lot more stern. You, kind of like a sad puppy. Oh, I'm sorry. No need to be sorry. It's just how you look. It's nothing to worry about. Still, it's a good thing that you showed up. Otherwise, we really would have been screwed. Are you a pilot also? Yes and no. While I am a pilot, my Ava hasn't arrived. But what was that thing you're using? Oh, my spider armor? It's how I fight in combat. You know, kind of like you. I don't actually wear a suit or anything. I prefer to use my mech. It also acts as the cooling pod, you know? Cooling pod? Mm-hmm. You see, when my Ava arrives, instead of going into an entry plug like you, my suit will be the entry plug. I can just crawl inside of my Ava and just activate it from there and keep the fight going. Oh. So how long have you been? Not too long. I'd say about 4 or 5 months, give or take. I'm so glad you two met, Misato would say. This Penny Parker, Shinji Ikari. Oh, hi, Misato. So, have you gone through your living arrangements yet, Shinji? Misato would ask him. I was just gonna be staying in one of the spare apartments here at Nerve. You're not gonna live with your father? No. But why? It's kind of better that way. No reason for us to be together. Misato couldn't understand why. A father and son who hadn't seen each other in so long? You'd think that they'd want to try to spend time together, but rather they seemed more akin to spend time apart. Well, Misato didn't want to leave the kid on his own, so she decided she would just take in another. Another? Yeah, you're gonna be staying with me and Penny. Good. Okay, your stuff's already been sit there. Let's go. Before Shinji had a chance to object, he found himself sitting in the back seat of the blue sports car as Misato and Penny were happily going about talking about what they were going to be getting for dinner. The two girls were definitely energetic. In fact, if you didn't know any better, you would have assumed that Penny was Misato's younger sister or maybe even her daughter, the way that they acted. They were like always on the same wavelength, always high-strung, hyperactive, ready to go. But while Misato chose to supplicate herself with the likes of having an ice cold beer, Penny preferred having a nice cold Coca-Cola. It was, well, what she could have since she was a minor after all, but still, one person high-strung on alcohol, the other one caffeine. Shinji just wanted to get some tea and call it a day. As they arrived to Misato's apartment, it was a lot more spacious than one might think. Misato had a couple of extra rooms, although it wasn't like she ever used them for anything in particular outside of her own and Penny's, so Shinji would be having a room to himself. Safe to say, life at the Katsuragi home was a lot more, well, energetic than Shinji might have expected. On top of the piles of dirty clothes, the dirty dishes, and a penguin named Pen that liked to just strut around, Shinji's life was anything but ordinary. But he was making adjustments, although it was easy to see for both Misato and Penny that the boy was definitely recluse. They had tried to get him to open up many ways, but that was easier said than done. He just preferred to be on his own. One night in particular, though, as Shinji found himself unable to sleep, he walked out of his room and, almost as if she were waiting, Penny was waiting for him. Couldn't sleep, huh? No, Come with me. The two of them would quietly walk out of the apartment, making their way to the rooftop. Penny would reveal that she too had a wrist gauntlet similar to that of Shinji's, although unlike his, hers didn't actually make a suit for her, but instead it called hers. You mean that armored spider mech suit that you wear? There's a special tunnel system built and connected all throughout Tokyo 3. So, no matter where I am, all I have to do is make the call, and my suit arrives in less than 5 to 10 seconds. Then I can hop in and get into the fight. So that's what you're using, since you don't have your Eva yet? For now, I just work on crowd control, if you will. I help out the Evas until I'll eventually get my own. But this is what I want to show you. Penny would jump off the side of the roof of the apartment before swinging over to the next building. She motioned for Shinji to do the same, although he couldn't. Well, seeing as how he wasn't going to move, she would shoot a webbing from across the other roof to Shinji's chest before pulling him, forcing him to swing and hold on for dear life. His instincts kicked in almost immediately as he clung to the side of the wall, as he wouldn't find himself falling. What the? How did I? Calm down. It's okay. You just can do whatever a spider can. Do whatever a spider can? Well, crawl up walls, stick to ceilings, that sort of jazz. Do whatever a spider can. What am I? Well, the term could be say that you're an arachnid, a hybrid, although I think Spider-Man's a lot cooler. Spider-Man? I didn't have to be a... Well, you put that thing on, so now you are. Just calm down and focus. Find your center and crawl up the wall. Shinji had to take multiple deep breaths, although looking down at the ground underneath, it caused him to lose his focus. He started to slip and he felt like he was falling until he clung back to the wall, only his hands and fingertips keeping him from falling and plummeting to his doom. Shinji! Shinji looked up to Penny. Don't look down. Just look up and crawl. One hand at a time, okay? Okay. One hand at a time. One hand at a time. One hand at a time. Slowly but surely, Shinji made his way to the roof. Eventually, he could feel himself getting used to it, but still the fear overgripped him. Even once he arrived, he only exclaimed how much he wanted to go back. He didn't want to do any of this. It's fine. You'll be okay. Fine? How are we? What the hell did they do? They injected you with the power of the Spider Angel. The Spider Angel? It's complicated, But they found the remains of a spider angel. They synthesized its DNA, refined it, and now they were able to inject it inside of the pilots of the Evangelion. And, well, that's where you come in. I didn't... Shinji just took a deep breath as he collapsed to the ground, letting the weight of everything sink in. When did all of this happen to me? I didn't expect any of this. Hardly anyone ever does. But you could say that this is just our fate. Our fate. You sound like you've just accepted everything without a care in the world. It's not like that. But we all come from different walks of life. And why? Why are you involved in any of this? Well, my father was a scientist. He worked with Nerve for a while, but unfortunately he died when I was 9 years old. I lived with my aunt and uncle over in the countryside, and eventually when the time came, well, they found me. Said I was the 5th child or something like that. And, well, I was called in. I see. But why do this? I don't really think you have to. Of course I don't have to. They didn't put a gun to my head and force me to do it. Then why? Why get involved with someone like my father? He's cruel, selfish. He doesn't care about anything or anyone, and... Tell me, is that the only reason why you're here? Because of your dad? You know, you don't have to be here. You can leave whenever you want. I've been noticing how you talk, the way you act. You don't really seem like you do anything for yourself. It's like you just do whatever you're told. Yeah, well, life is easier that way, isn't it? I mean, what's the point of, There's a lot, Shinji. In the end, I can't really tell you why you should or shouldn't pilot. That's something you'll have to figure out on your own. Although I can tell you this. If you're just doing it because people tell you to, if it's something your heart's not in, don't expect to live long. Alright, let's go home. Before Shinji had a chance to object, Penny grabbed him by the waist and they began swinging once again back to their apartment building. Safe to say, Shinji did not get any sleep that night. Not too long after, Shinji would start going to school along with Penny. At first, he just wanted to keep his identity under wraps, although there were 2 students in particular that were able to figure it out. The first one, a boy with glasses, who was enamored with weapons and military-grade equipment, that being Kinsuke Aida, along with his friend, Toji Suzuhara. Of course, for Toji, he was grateful to Penny. They already knew about her status as a future Eva pilot and for having the spider armor, and she was the one that saved Toji's sister. But they were also wondering about whoever it was that was piloting that giant robot. And it didn't take long for 2 and 2 to be put together and for Shinji's secret to pretty much be revealed. Even though in this timeline of events, while Toji wouldn't hate Shinji since he didn't get his sister harmed or anything of that nature, at the same time, it was still something about all this celebrity that really just didn't sit well with Shinji at all. He didn't do anything worth being praised for. He wasn't anyone special, no one in particular. All in all, though, Shinji tried to get through his school life, and Misato and Penny could see that he was struggling in that regard. One day, though, the alarms would begin to sound. An angel attack? Shinji, Rei, and Penny would begin moving as they arrived at Nerve headquarters. It was from there that they would be told where they needed to go. Shinji would activate his suit as he and Penny would swing into action, with Ray still being on the sidelines until she recovered. They would arrive to the hospital, where many patients were being evacuated to another facility. The hospital looked like it had been wrecked, but not by a large angel. As they made their way inside of the building, where the floors looked like they had been torn and ripped to shreds, Penny would tell Shinji to stay on alert. Why? What's going on? Well, before you come into contact with an angel, you have to destroy the host shell. Host shell? Yeah. That's how the angels have been rebirthing themselves. They target random humans, and, well, when they do, they start to emerge from that human, sort of becoming like a parasite to the body. They slowly take over it, corrupt it completely, and then they emerge. Right now, you could say that they're in the corruption state. It's probably a lot easier said than done, but we have to destroy the host shell to get the angel to emerge. That's the only way to destroy the core. Wait a minute. So you're saying that there's someone here possessed by an angel? Immediately, 4 tendrils would appear, wrapping up the two and sending them flying. As off in the distance, a man in a lab coat, with the 4 tendrils behind him and more starting to sprout. What the? Doctor? Doctor, you know him? Yes, he's the one that treated me after the battle. He's Dr. Octavius. Garia, you will pay. Doc, snap out of it. This isn't you. Shinji, look out. One of the tendrils would shoot towards Shinji. Shinji narrowly dodging with his spire sense as he used his webbing to try to bind and hold him in place. The two would engage with the doctor, as now they were getting the full scope of the situation. Come on, Doc, snap out of it. You can fight this. Shinji, there's no point. Once someone's been chosen, there's no going back. The only thing we can do is... Do what? Shinji would say. Kill him? We can't just kill someone. We can't just take a life. Shinji, that's not Dr. Octavius anymore. That is an angel. What? We've been given confirmation. The angel process has begun to take over. It's the next angel, the 4th, Shamshel, angel of the morning. Garia, you will pay for your betrayal. You and all of your spiders will die with humanity. Shinji and Penny would continue their fight as it broke out into the streets. The doctor's tentacles being enveloped in the power of the angel itself. Shinji wasn't sure of what to do, of how long he could hold back against them. However, Penny, on the other hand, was not one to give up so easily. Almost as if she were expecting this, as if this was something that was normal for her, Penny would use one of the blades in her armor to stab the doctor repeatedly, over and over again. Of course, Shinji wanted to stop this. The best thing he could do was restrain the doctor. In the end, though, after multiple stab wounds, the doctor would stand in place. Penny would tell Shinji to stand back as the two of them jumped away. The doc's body beginning to transform, shedding its human skin as it evolved into its true angel-like state. To be more specific, it was more of a flying alien squid, its tendrils now much larger, ripping through and destroying the buildings around it. Eva Unit 1 would be summoned next, as Shinji would swing up along the side of the Eva, before jumping in to pilot it. As he had done so, Shinji, now inside of Eva Unit 1, would come face to face with the angel. It's not human, Shinji would tell himself. It's not human. It's not human. It's not human. The matters only became more complicated, though, as there were two stowaways alongside near the battlefield, that being in Kinsuke and Toji. Kinsuke convincing his friend to sneak off to go and see the battle for themselves. And now they were closer to the fray, and Shinji didn't want them to get hurt. Penny would move over to give cover to her classmates, scolding them for doing something so reckless as getting close to the battle. But now the only safety they could have was inside of Eva Unit 1. While the entry plug was rather large, it did become cramped rather quickly. Shinji fighting for his life as he struggled against the massive angel, with two of its tendrils stabbing him in the abdomen. He was going to lose power quickly, Misato calling for a retreat, but there was nowhere for him to run. As Shinji used the Eva blade, he would find the core of the angel as he began to stab into it. However, he could hear another voice. Protect, live. Protect, live. What? Protect, live? The only other person who could hear that voice distinctly in that moment was Penny. She understood what he meant. As Shinji's faltered, as he began to waver, she would grab onto the controls and help him push forward, driving the blade into the core of the angel, eventually destroying and killing it. The only thing that could be heard, though, in the absolute silence of it all, Shinji's cries for what he had done. A few days later following the attack, though, a small funeral would be held. The rain loomed over Tokyo 3. Over in the cemetery itself, a tombstone was made for Okada Octavius. Standing there, a young girl, Olivia Octavius. Where she was going to go, Shinji had been informed. She had some family that lived far off in other part of Japan. They were going to be taking the girl in. It was best she not be here. Thankfully, her father had a pension, so in terms of maybe starting over, she'd have a chance. But really, how can you start over losing someone that you love? As the girl cried, Shinji would pat his hand on her shoulder. He understood what it was like to lose a parent. The two were able to bond seldomly before the girl eventually left. Shinji standing alone at the gravesite as Penny would join him. Shinji, about what happened, why? Why do we do this? Is this all we're supposed to do? Are we just murderers? Shinji, you're not a murderer. I am. It doesn't matter what they say. Even if to everyone else he was just an angel, he was also a human being. A human being with a daughter, with people that loved him, and he's gone. I took that away. I took her father away. Shinji, you can't blame yourself. It's the angels. This is what they do. The only way to stop this from happening is to defeat them. But at what cost? What happens if someone we know turns into an angel? What then? Do we just kill them without a second thought? Is it just that easy? It's not. It'll never be that easy, Shinji. But I was told something long ago. With great power also comes great responsibility. We may not like it. It's not fair. I'll never say it is. But we're the only thing that stands between humanity's survival or its destruction. We have to do what we have to do, even if it means Penny didn't finish the sentence. Shinji wanted to be angry, but how could he be? Was she really wrong? Was this what they were meant to do? To save the world? To save the ones they loved? But how much was that worth? Could you really save everyone, no matter the cost? And at that point, would there even be a world worth saving? This concludes Neon Genesis Evangelion, The Spider's Thesis. What if Shinji was Spider-Man? Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that's to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we're going to be starting yet another new series here in our channel for the Spider-Verse event. That being Jujutsu Kaisen, The Spider's Curse. What if Miles Morales was Sukuna's vessel? Season 1, Part 1. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.